Hello, I'm Timothy Campbell, and I'm going to be talking about legalizing marijuana. Um, I wrote a paper on this earlier in the semester, and I had a lot of pretty decent facts that I pulled or statistics that I thought would be worthy of making a video of and using it for my civic engagement. This is for the civic engagement, the make a YouTube video 20 points. Anyway, I'm gonna get started. So, essentially, America is not on the same page when it comes to cannabis. Cannabis is a very useful plant in forms of hemp and marijuana and has been used as far back as possibly 8800 to 6500 BCE, and that for more than a centenary has gotten a bad rap in the United States. Since at least the 1970s, tobacco companies have been interested in marijuana legalization as a rival product. As far as studies show, medical marijuana has upwards of a 15% decrease in possession arrests for cocaine and heroin, as well as a 20% decrease in heroin-related treatment. The United States is not united on the idea of legal marijuana, and only time will tell whether America will change and be more accepting towards the legalization of such a versatile and vital plant. Cannabis is dated back in usage as far back as 8800, 6500 BCE in Taiwan. Cultivation of hemp dates back at least 3,000 years, so it's been used for years, and only recently in the last maybe 100 years has it had kind of a bad connotation or bad rap. Hemp has been used for making clothing, rope, shoes, and paper, whereas marijuana is used as a medicine use, food source, and of course a psychoactive material. And like I said, America is divided. States such as Alaska, New Mexico, Arizona, Colorado, Nevada, California, Oregon, Washington, Montana, Missouri, Illinois, Michigan, Virginia, New Jersey, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New York, Vermont, and Maine have legalized the plant entirely, following in suit of Colorado and Washington's initial legalization. And the states between would be Mississippi, Ohio, Maryland, Delaware, New Hampshire, Minnesota, North Dakota, Texas, Iowa, Wisconsin, Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee, Georgia, North Carolina, and Nebraska. These states have mixed laws regarding CBD and THC content, and most of the states have it already decriminalized or mostly decriminalized. And the states that are completely opposed to the idea would be South Carolina, Kansas, Wyoming, and Idaho. It's only those four where it's completely illegal. It's not decriminalized. You will get some time if you have it there. Initially, in November of 2012, Colorado and Washington approved the ballot initiatives that legalized marijuana for recreational use in their state law. And then, since 9 additional states, Alaska, Oregon, California, Nevada, Maine, Vermont, Massachusetts, Michigan, and Illinois, followed suit. And then New Jersey, South Dakota, Arizona, Montana. So the argument against is that that marijuana will spur other drug and alcohol use, increase crime, diminish traffic safety, and harm public health, and lower teen educational achievement. And that's mentioned in Dill's article, The Effective State of Marijuana Legalization's 2021 update of the Cato Institute. But that's under the argument that marijuana is a gateway drug, but that's not actually true. At least as facts and statistics say. But why does it even have this negative connotation? Well, because of the war on drugs and Nixon's presidency in the 1970s. Nixon launched the war on drugs to eradicate illicit drug use in the U.S. And over the next couple decades, what followed suit was the escalation of global military and police efforts against drugs. And it led to unintended consequences that have proliferated violence around the world and contributed to mass incarceration in the U.S. Even if it has made drugs less accessible and reduced potential levels of drug use, it's damaged a lot more lives than I think it's saved. You know what I mean? Essentially. And, politically, it helped Nixon's campaign. and painting that picture of marijuana being the devil's lettuce and being one of those drugs that they're trying to fight against. It was very easy for the Christian conservative mindset to adopt that, and since then it's been very negatively, heavily connotated or under that impression. So then over the last couple years, since 2012, it's been legalized. However, so when Colorado initially started the process, the voters in Amendment 64 pitch was to have an effort to regulate marijuana like alcohol. As it needs to be very regulated, it needs to have an emphasis on not allowing the youth to participate in use. And this is what voters are most worried about, is smoking in general being introduced to more teens, similarly to the vape with the Juuls and all those like flavored, products. That was a problem. And it still is a problem. It's not as much of a problem as they've eliminated all those flavors for even the adults too. They've cracked down harder, I think, on the gas stations IDing and stuff, and then raising the legal limit to 21, I think, for tobacco in the last 6 years, something like that. But with marijuana, the plan is to regulate it like alcohol. So in states where it is legal, and when you do go by, you have to give them your ID. You wait in like a lobby usually. There's the actual whole building, but you're in a lobby at first. You don't even get to see any of the products. You have to give them your ID, or your medical card, and then if it passes, you get to go through and you get to purchase your products in the actual store. Similarly to how you purchase alcohol, where it's usually ID at the door, or if you're not old enough, showing your ID, you get a cross on your hand so you can't drink. But there's still, you get ID'd, essentially is the whole deal here. Let's see. And then also, I wrote about how, we should recognize that some people struggle with dependency on multiple substances, and, maybe opening opportunities to proactively direct funding to prevent focused interventions for those such people. Because, there's going to be some outliers that are going to abuse anything, alcohol included. So those being, thrown into the statistics are going to obviously make things seem a little worse, but I didn't find any statistics that even really showed like negative, that push the negative arguments. I had a hard time finding those. Another argument is traffic fatalities are the leading cause of death among Americans age 5 to 34, and that the relationship between legalization of medical marijuana and traffic fatalities is, with states like Colorado and Washington, in the first full year coming into effect, legalization is associated with 8 to 11% decrease in traffic fatalities. And they also wanted to make clear that relationship does not necessarily imply that driving under the influence of marijuana is safer than driving under the influence of alcohol. It's just to show that in states where it is legalized, there is an 8 to 11% decrease in traffic fatalities. So that's kind of neat. And that's coming from Anderson's article, which is titled Medical Marijuana Laws, Traffic Fatalities, and Alcohol Consumption, of the Journal of Law and Economics, from JSTOR. Let's see. Okay, yeah. And is it a gateway drug is the question. To answer that question, any yes or no, I mean, for some, yeah, of course, like I mentioned previously, like those that suffer from dependence, and then, alcoholics, yeah, I mean, it definitely can be, but for the vast majority of the public that aren't, no, it's not. Just like alcohol doesn't necessarily lead to drug use, you know what I mean? It doesn't really have any kind of relationship. in states where it's like legal, you know, because the process is a legal purchase versus, you know, if you're already buying from a dealer legally in like a state where it's not legalized, I mean, yeah, you're more likely to probably purchase other drugs that way, you know, because he's probably got other options, which is irrelevant, but, you know, worth noting. Yeah, so is it a gateway drug? So Yue Leo Luke Cheo with the Victoria University of Wellington finds that medical marijuana laws increase these proxies for marijuana consumption by around 10 to 15%. And from the arrest data, no evidence of cocaine or heroin usage increases. No evidence supports or suggests that marijuana leads to hard drug use. So contrary to popular belief, it is not a gateway drug to harsher chemicals and is a lie told to the public for years. She also found 15% decrease in possession arrests for cocaine and heroin. And from the treatment data, estimates show a 20% decrease in admissions for heroin related treatment, although there was no significant effect for cocaine related treatment, which, you know, is important to note. Like, I guess cocaine and there's no correlation. Marijuana may be a substitute for heroin, though, but there's not strongly correlated with cocaine. And to put simply, marijuana legalization seems to lower heroin usage specifically. So when medical marijuana laws are in place, overall lower hard drug use. It is essentially with that said, and that's from Luke Chue, his article, Do Medical Marijuana Laws How Increase Hard Drug Use, the Journal of Law Economics. Yeah, and so in conclusion, you know, cannabis is a very useful product and plant. It provides us the hemp for manufacturing with rope, clothing, etc. Marijuana with you know, as a food source, as medicine, and, you know, as a recreational product. And America is going to be very divided on this subject, and it'll likely take another decade for, you know, legalization on a federal level to really take effect. And the war on drugs really did give it a bad rap, and it's not actually a gateway drug unless you are an alcoholic. Traffic fatalities decreased by 8 to 11% in states where marijuana laws existed, and lower heroin usage and related emissions by upwards of 20%. Luckily, we've seen states such as Colorado begin to show us a picture of how it truly impacts the American population. And only time will tell whether America will take this and make the change and be more accepting towards the legalization of such a vital and controversial plant. But anyways, that's my civic engagement video. This is concluding it. Thank you for listening. If you got this far,